Hey everybody, welcome to the Jiu-Jitsu Therapist Podcast. Today's a little bit of a different podcast for me. I don't have a guest. I just kind of wanted to just go over the year in review. It's New Year's Eve actually, and I hanging out at the house right now. It's in the morning. Wasn't able to secure a babysitter, so wasn't able to train, so just kind of wanted to mentally break down the year and everything that has gone down. Talking about grappling, training, injury prevention, health tips, just everything that I've kind of thought about throughout the year and all that fun stuff. And I just actually saw some of the highlights from the Rhonda, Rousey, Nunes fight, and it just kind of made me think, it's like, things change so fast in life, really. I mean, like, you could be on top of the game, and then all of a sudden you're at the bottom. You could be on a 13-fight win streak, and then you lose devastatingly 2 fights in a row, or, So that's kind of one of those things, like, how do you combat that? How do you recover? Like, because Rhonda, to me, was one of the most dominant, obviously the most dominant women's champion, and everybody's talking about this fight, and it was kind of a mystery because she didn't really do a lot of interviews at all. I mean, you kind of didn't know what you were going to expect, what kind of Rhonda Rousey you're going to see. If she's going to be the super aggressive, or she's going to be kind of more patient fighter. You didn't really know. You just knew that she didn't talk to the media, and she'd taken about 13 months off, and she was in great shape. Like, there was pictures floating around of her before she fought Kat Zingano 5 days out of the fight. She looked a little bit softer, and then there was a picture of her 5 days out of this fight with Amanda Nunes, and she just looked very lean, very muscular. Her back was just very, shoulders very developed, everything, abs were just really, cut up, and she just looked great. She looked in really great shape. But I think, like, the outside didn't really match maybe the inside, or what she felt, or her confidence. Like, 'cause that fight was just absolutely, I don't know, it was just devastating for her. I mean, you just see just 2 totally different levels of skill. Like, Rhonda had, stand-up game-wise was just nothing. I mean, really looked like an amateur against a pro, it was really, and I think that everybody I don't think Rhonda evolved. Like, I think she was still the same fighter. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, So Rhonda was the same fighter she had been, probably 13 months ago. We knew that she doesn't really have a good takedown, like a wrestling type takedown, where she goes for a double leg or a single leg, or what she's going to do is kind of try to wrap you up, double underhooks or whatever, over under, and try to hip toss you, try to throw you and get on top that way. So to do that, she's got to actually stay pretty tall and close the distance. She's not really changing levels. So I think Amanda saw that she was just kind of staying upright, and Rhonda would just kind of try to bear hug her almost, and she would just throw her off and beat her up on the way in. And then, so that was just, for me, it just shows how things can change in a matter of, a year. And for me, this year was crazy, because one of the things that stands out was I competed more in jiu-jitsu. And I think the reason why I was able to do that, even with, having a baby and I had a baby last year, but having, my son grow up and getting older and getting a lot more, mobile and doing more and requiring more of my time, I was able to stay consistent. So for me, consistency was super important. I think that's what kept my level of jiu-jitsu from, just getting it better. I was constantly on the lookout for new things. So I was constantly I'm one of those guys that I'll sit there and I'll watch videos all the time. I'll look at YouTube, and I'll look at rubber guard and stuff that I usually wouldn't play, or just different positions and different submissions, and they're just everything. And I think that's what's kind of helped me evolve some, being consistent and also kind of trying new things, going different routes in my game, trying to develop new wrinkles in my game. As I was fortunate to get promoted to brown belt this year, about a month ago, and that's one of those things that's I wrote a blog post about it. Kind of getting promoted is bittersweet. And I don't even know if I posted it because I just don't know if I even got around to posting a blog post. But to me, I went to the Master Worlds and I lost first round, fairly quickly. It was a big-time competition, biggest I'd ever done, a lot of anticipation. But I felt good going in. And then I went and did the Charlotte Open, and I got, 2 second places. And I felt like I did okay, but I think when you compete, even if you win, you're going to find stuff that you don't that don't satisfy you, that you don't do as well. And I was just really, I wasn't satisfied with, and Chewy can attest to this, that I basically finished everybody by a submission, my go-to submission. But the thing is, I didn't pass the guard a lot. I didn't get a lot of points for passing. I didn't really go. I kind of went for the kill, which is what you want to do. You want to go for the finish. But it was important, it was great to compete. And just as I was starting to get comfortable as a purple belt, I got promoted to brown. So now I start that whole chapter of my jiu-jitsu journey. And it's almost like you feel, just as you're getting, kind of sinking your teeth into purple belt, and you're starting to feel like you belong at purple belt and you can hang and, you're competitive there, you get promoted. And, Chewy's like, it's not your decision. It's not anybody's decision. It's when he feels he's ready. I think that's the ultimate compliment, though, because when your instructor who you respect, who is a high-level competitor, excellent grappler, cares about his students and doesn't fucking give out belts. He doesn't just like say, oh, you need a belt. You need to be promoted. Or he doesn't give belts for people just to stick around. Like, you either train or you don't train. You put the time in, the work in, or you don't. And I thought that was a really super it was really to me, it was very humbling. It was great to because I respect him and I respect what that brown belt means. And like the guys that we have a brown belt, Ryan Embry and Adam Wilson and just Mike Colley and whoever I'm missing. I mean, there's so many guys that are so tough. And then we got black belts, Chad Hardy and of course Chewy and Tony Spencer. And so it's just everybody's so tough. And like to be on that level, kind of be in the upper level. And we got guys in blue belts that are just killers and white belts that are coming up and are going to be killers. And they're already on their way. And it's just you feel good to be part of the gym, part of Derby City. And you feel awesome that you can really, you have a black or a brown belt or whatever belt you have under, just a super strong coach and Sean Hammond's association. So it says a lot. It makes you proud. Makes you feel like you've really earned it, when you get a belt, because some people belts are what matter and some people belts are don't. I'd say a belt is important because it's a validation of your hard work. But it's not all that matters, really. I think for me, it just puts a bigger target on my back. But it does make you step up. The one thing about getting a new belt is you do get a bigger target, and you do have to really make sure that you step your game up, or continue to improve and continue to stay consistent. So being consistent is, I think, what's really helped me make sure I keep my jiu-jitsu level up and improving, and I was able to compete. I mean, I had some highs and some lows this year. I had, the highest of highs, where I got, I wanted to win, obviously, but I did win a few. I won the Extreme Grappling Open a week after I lost, all 3 matches at our gym, at a tournament that we held at our gym, it was submission only. It was my only time doing submission, my first time ever doing submission only. and it's totally different, like you do go for the kill, but when it's submission only, no time limit, the strategy changes. You're not that clock is not there. You can't look at the clock and say, oh, I only got 2 more minutes to survive or this or that. There's no time limit. And I think that can kind of really beat you down. I mean, you can really be kind of distraught. And cardio, it can be your best friend or your worst enemy in a submission-only match. Because, like, I remember I went for 3 submissions that were pretty close, and I didn't finish any of them. And after that, I was just like, holy shit. I threw everything I had, my best stuff, and I couldn't finish. And, it just kind of takes a lot out of you. And also, I don't think I had the best mental preparedness going in. Like, when you go into a tournament, you're like, I don't know if I'm going to compete or I'm just going to see what happens. For me, I tend to, it's less pressure, but you also don't feel like you have as much to lose. Like, I think you're more okay with losing because you give yourself an out. And I can't give myself an out. I can't, look at my coaches and know that I fucking was like, well, I'm okay with losing, which I'm not. But I think you're more okay with losing if you're really kind of go into it nonchalant. And some people that works because they feel no pressure and they compete really well. For me personally, I feel like I gave myself an out. So obviously everybody's probably heard the story, but the next weekend I went to the Extreme Grappling Open in Indy because I just couldn't sleep, couldn't really, couldn't let it go. I couldn't let it go. I had to do something. And I really, I had a heart to heart with my wife, and I was like, look, I got to go up there. And we, obviously we had a little one, and giving up 2 weekends in a row was amazing on her part to allow me. Really, she did. She said, go get him because I know you're not going to be the same, because I was just so aggravated around the house. And I went in and I got a first place and I got a second place. So I was pretty pleased. I feel like my first match, I kind of didn't have the best performance, but I was a little bit gun shy. I just wanted to win, and I didn't do that in the best fashion. I won on points, and I wasn't terribly aggressive, but the second match that I had, I won via, I think, ankle lock or toe hold or something, and I was really, that one I went after. I just wasn't waiting around, wasn't screwing around, and I did lose one match, and that was in the Masters division. I lost my second match, and that was to a guy that I've actually lost to a couple of times. But I was pleased that I did pretty much everything in my power, and I lost. I got submitted with maybe less than a minute to go, and it was very close. It was 0-0. He maybe was up on an advantage or something, but I ended up getting submitted. But I was, I wasn't devastated by that performance. But I was able to build off of that. I felt good, but I wasn't content. I wanted to continue. So I did the Master Worlds, didn't have a great performance. And then Charlotte Open was about a month and a half or 2 months later. I did that. I competed. I pushed, and I did great. Now I got the Atlanta Open coming up, and my first tournament as a brown belt, pretty big tournament. And I'm just pumped. Like, I think the more you compete, the more I compete, the more comfortable I get. I'm putting myself in that situation. Going back to that Rhonda Rousey thing, I don't think she really progressed. I don't think she really got back into it because, and you could see that. You could see the difference. Amanda Nunes had been fighting, consistently, and Rhonda was not. And you could just see she just wasn't ready. I don't think she was prepared, wasn't ready, wasn't on that caliber. And continuing to improve and being consistent, I think, is what makes you better. I think that's what makes you, consistently training your body and your mind. And I think the hardest part of that people that don't train for a while, they feel it's really hard for them to come back to training because your body's kind of out of sorts. The muscle memory is gone. Your speed, your timing is not there. Your cardio, your endurance is not there. It's one thing, jogging or doing the rower, but it's another thing grappling, with a live body for, 5-6 minutes, going pretty hard, going for submissions and fighting out of bad positions. It's pretty tough, because you're not anticipating you're not like, oh, I'm going to push here and I'm going to rest here. No, you're kind of reacting and you're going based on what your partner's doing. So I think for me, being consistent was super important. I think it's important for anybody because it helps build muscle memory, helps build timing, helps build confidence, helps build your comfort level. So I think competing for me on a consistent basis is allowing me to feel more at home on the mats with people that I don't know. And it's helping me progress my game, and I'm not really as nervous or scared about competing as I used to be. I do get the nerves, of course, and sometimes I find myself like, shit, why am I doing this to myself again? But once that feeling passes and you're in the bullpen and you're ready to go, you just fucking go. And so that's one thing. I think consistency has been really awesome, been really important. I've trained about 3, sometimes 4 times a week consistently. I find myself in the gym. And so that's one. I've been really trying to drill a little more, which I think I can improve upon. Continuing to drill and build that muscle memory, especially with new techniques, is so crucial. Because I think when you're in a high intensity situation, live rolling, live grappling, you kind of revert back to your safety or to your go-to moves, which I think is great, but you're never really going to progress, I think, if you do that. So continuing to learn is great. Continuing to pick up new techniques is great. I went to a few seminars, having the Bernardo Faria seminar. Chew was able to bring Bernardo in, and I was able to actually do a podcast with him. And one of the probably nicest guys that I've met in jiu-jitsu. The thing about him, when we spoke, he was like, he treated everybody the same. I never got the sense that he was better just because he's a 5-time world champion, that he was better than anybody. Like, he treated everybody with respect. He's one of the guys that, when I try to get people on the podcast, sometimes when you're starting up, it's a little challenging to get people into the podcast and, to get their times to work out, or even get them, have them take a chance on talking to you because they don't know who you are and you're not very established. But Bernardo, man, got back to me within a few hours, set it up, was just absolutely awesome. Took time out of his day, and he's super busy and, got tons of shit going on, and was able to talk to me and just was awesome. It was great. For me, it was one of the highlights of doing podcasts so far, and I've been able to talk to quite a few people, and Chewy's been super, super awesome. Just his knowledge base and talking jiu-jitsu with him is always just enlightening. And we talk all the time. Obviously, every time we train, we talk, but still being able to sit down with somebody and just like continuously be able to pick their brain and talk to them about jiu-jitsu, I think is just it's awesome. It's fun because you don't always get to do that with people, and just talk general conversation with people is fun. So it was awesome. Being consistent. I've taken a lot more of an approach into cross-training and supplemental work. I've really started to develop more what I feel like is going to keep me on the mats. And I think I've been fairly injury-free. I've been able to train consistently. Part of that is I'm training smarter. I'm letting my body rest. I figured out kind of the sweet spot, me training about 3 days a week and then doing some cardiovascular work and some strength training on the side has really kind of been perfect. Like, if I train 2 days back to back, I feel like my body feels flat and I'm not able to really do that. I think I could work up to that, but just for me, with my schedule, with my family life and stuff like that, it's just, you got to find that sweet spot, but make it a priority to be consistent. But I've started putting, different things, band work, resisted band work, really flexibility, dynamic movements. So a lot of stuff that I recommend for jiu-jitsu is doing jiu-jitsu movements repetitively. So strengthening in functional movement. So for us, a functional movement would be a jiu-jitsu specific movement. So for example, strengthening bridges, because you're, if you're looking at shrimping or, getting out of side control, it's important to have a good, powerful bridge. So working your glutes and your hamstrings and those type of muscles. So like work specific things that will help your jiu-jitsu. it's important to just strength train. It's okay to do biceps and, bench press and all that stuff. But I think it's also important to do specific jiu-jitsu type movements with resistance. So I love taking a band, resistance band, TheraBand, monster band, whatever you have, and implementing that into jiu-jitsu type movements. So if you're doing solo drills, you're not just getting the movement, but you're also allowing yourself to have a little bit of resistance. And that resistance can help build strength, build explosiveness while you're building muscle memory. And so when you are fatigued, you're going to be able to push through, and you're going to feel that you do have strength, and you're able to kind of continue on that progression. So with not being able to get to the gym, I've been trying to find ways to work on my jiu-jitsu independently, whether it's with using a heavy bag or a little grappling dummy. I did, there's a lot of grappling dummies aren't always the best, but one of the best things, I think, Chewy posted a video on this, using like a heavy bag and using that to, do movements with, as well as I have one of those big exercise balls. Those are really awesome to do, to really just build muscle memory and build your movements, and also build a functional cardio. So building a cardio for jiu-jitsu, doing those movements. And Chewy's got some great videos on jiu-jitsu.net and his YouTube channel, which I go to all the time. And it's fun. I mean, it's fun to kind of get ideas from him and get just different stuff, to work on, because he's constantly putting videos out. And I think that's one of the ways that my jiu-jitsu's gotten better. I look at his videos and what he recommends. And the other thing I've been doing, is trying to watch my diet, which I haven't been as great at, but my water intake. I've been trying to really improve how much water I drink, and I think what that does is, helps with I think it really helps injury prevention. First of all, helps with, obviously preventing dehydration, and because you're going to sweat a lot when you train. So drinking plenty of water is going to help your muscles stay hydrated, help the elasticity in your muscles. In turn, it's going to hopefully, not always, but hopefully help prevent injuries, muscle sprains and strains, and, just helps the overall health of your body, and it helps the elasticity of your tissue. And that's can't be a bad thing. Having a little more flexibility, or a little more mobility in your motion, I think is very beneficial, because I think it'll help prevent injury. So that's another thing, like watch your diet. Being consistent, watching your diet, and I think, flexibility. So looking at your problem areas, if you're tight in certain areas, if you sit all day and you're a rounded posture, I know this is something we go over all the time. With your posture, with our jiu-jitsu posture, and with sitting all day, we get those tight hip flexors and those tight pec muscles, and we get rounded, and our neck muscles get tight. And so we get in this position where there's a muscle imbalance throughout the body, and we're constantly trying to compensate or correct that. But I think what you have to end up doing is you have to find the sources of the problem. So maybe be more aware if you're sitting, making sure your workstation is more ergonomically correct, meaning you're sitting more upright, shoulders are back, sitting nice and tall. And then doing maintenance work, like stretching the tissue that's tight, strengthening the tissue that's weak, pretty common sense. And I've got some videos on my channel too that can kind of give you some ideas. And you have to kind of pick and choose, because I say this all the time, there's not a one size that fits all. So there's so many, everybody's build and physique and body makeup is just different. Not everybody is going to be exactly the same. So maybe 3 reps or 3 sets of this or these type of holds are not going to be ideal. You have to find what works best for your body. What works best for you? What gives you the most benefit? Some exercises you may do, and you may just feel like it makes your pain worse or aggravates it, and that's okay, because the stuff that the exercise or general guidelines are not like written in stone. You just kind of pick and choose, what you feel helps you, or what deficits you have, and knowing your body and being in tune with it is going to help. It's going to help you keep yourself more healthy. And the ultimate goal is to train longer, stay healthy, and stay on the mats, and continue to do what we love. That's why jiu-jitsu is so addicting, because it's just like it's such a challenge, and the feeling you get from training jiu-jitsu, especially the community that we have, is so different than anything, I've ever experienced. And that's what kind of helps my mental well-being as well as my physical well-being. I feel like I stay in great shape, and I also feel mentally sane. I feel like really more healthy because I do get that physical exertion, which releases those hormones that make you feel good, put you in a good mood. So that's always, that's why staying consistent in jiu-jitsu is important, because, I've heard so many people that have had depression and other issues, and they train and they find that those voids that they've had, they fill those voids like family issues that they've had. They've kind of found family in the jiu-jitsu community, and, being out of shape or overweight, and they come and they train and they lose weight and they get better, which helps, your physical well-being as well as your mental well-being. So, all those things are just the benefits of jiu-jitsu. Obviously the jiu-jitsu does take a physical toll. And I think, being a physical therapist, I think keeping your physical body healthy in turn keeps your mental healthy, and vice versa. If you're mentally don't feel good or you're depressed, you're not going to want to exercise or train, and vice versa. If you're physically hurting and you're injured, you're going to be mentally, you're not going to be able to exert your body like you want. You're not going to be able to train and, do what you can. The other thing I'd say as far as training goes with injuries, I'm one of the worst people. I feel like I'm very good about telling people or pointing out when people should and shouldn't train, when they should kind of take some time off, or okay to push their body. And I'm one of the worst ones, I think, because I always feel like I can work around it. So you have to be smart. If you are injured, maybe grappling, full-on grappling is not the best thing. If you have to be on the mats, say you've injured your shoulder or your elbow or your hand, doing one-armed work, so like maybe working on your guard or working on drilling, working on controlled movements with somebody that you trust, that their movement patterns and you're comfortable with their movement patterns. I think that can really help. Modify your training. I mean, you may just be able to drill. You may get some of that drive and some of that feeling of being on the mats by just going to the gym and watching practice and being a part of, the team, just being there and watching and maybe even helping the coach. All those things can really help you kind of stay in tune with jiu-jitsu, because you're still getting some mental training if you're watching. I think that there's a lot of benefit to watching jiu-jitsu matches and watching film and taking notes. And I want to remain consistent, because one thing I do is I take notes on techniques. If I find something that interests me, I'll take some notes on it, and I'll in-depthly kind of break it down the best that I can. And then once I've played it over in my head a bunch of times and I've thought about it, I'll start to try to implement it in not drilling, but just working the movements, and then drilling, and then eventually grappling. And so that's just another thing I've done. I think staying consistent, doing all these things is super important. Staying healthy, keeping up with your diet, and having just all around, cross training and doing specific things, doing the maintenance work is all important, just to continue to do. A way I think I want to improve my jiu-jitsu, it's kind of harder when you're getting to be an upper belt to go back and kind of work on your weaknesses, because you don't want to show weaknesses, I guess, to your opponents or, teammates maybe. So I think for me, working on some weaknesses that I have, and I would probably say work on my if I could work on a couple things, it would be to work on takedowns and guard passing. I think those are two areas where I feel like I need some work. And I think, focusing on those places will probably help me become more complete, more comfortable, just a better jiu-jitsu player overall. So I think, not shying away from the areas where I feel like I have some weakness in. Obviously I feel comfortable in guard, half guard, cross collar grip positions, knee shield. Those are all areas, top half. I feel like I feel pretty good, have good pressure. But I'm, working on areas where you don't have the skill level that you feel like you should or you need. I think is a great way to improve jiu-jitsu and improve your all-around game. So I want to do that for sure. Put myself in, continue to put myself in situations that are uncomfortable, that challenge my body, that challenge my mind. I think a really important thing, and I've tried to do this, is to learn new things. I want to continue to learn, which is not just in jiu-jitsu, but I think learning new things keeps you sharp, keeps your mind sharp. So I kind of picked up the drums because I feel like it's something I always wanted to learn. So learning, coordination, different type of coordination, and helping my brain kind of continue to develop those new techniques and new patterns, and I think keeps me sharp. So I think I want to continue to learn something new. I don't know what that would be exactly. Maybe yoga. I think that's probably one of the things that I've touched on in the past, but I feel like maybe I want to take it more seriously this year. I think it's a really great complement to jiu-jitsu. I think yoga is one of those things where not only is it relaxing and good for your mental well-being and physical well-being, but it's just a good complement to jiu-jitsu. I think being more flexible and having someone with the presence of mind that knows about combining breathing with these movements, flexibility. And also I think yoga helps to build a lot of good core and hip strength because you're holding these positions and you're working on your balance. I think it gets you more in tune with your body as a whole. So I'd love to continue to maybe do some more yoga and get more consistent with that, because I think it'll definitely help my jiu-jitsu and help my overall well-being, help my joints, help my tissue. And I think continue to compete is my first competition coming up as a brown belt. I'm going to do the best I can, obviously, go out there and play my game and just try to compete and be, enjoy the experience. That's really a main thing, and just try to maintain health, maintain a good diet, just continue to keep training. I think that's it, and just be more in the moment, I guess. Not let things that are out of my control not affect me as much. So I think that's one of the things that jiu-jitsu really helps with, is dealing with gravity issues. And I call gravity issues, gravity is one of those things where nobody can control. Gravity affects everybody, and gravity is one of those things that you can't do anything about, so that's kind of the problems in your life or in your world that affect you, but you can't change in any way. I think changing the things that you have control over is kind of empowering, So, okay, I can watch my diet, or I can, make sure I go work out, or I eat right, whatever. Those are things that are controllable. Those are things that can affect your mood, your effort in jiu-jitsu, or your effort in your job, or your family. Those are all things that can really you can affect, make a difference on. But gravity issues, stuff you don't like, your coworker or, somebody else, cutting you off in traffic, letting that affect your whole day, or letting that affect your, your mood. And then you come home and you're pissed off about stuff. I think that's like where you got to draw the line. And so that's one thing I want to be better about, and that's one thing that I feel like I have improved upon, but I can still be better. I can be an anxious person, and I want to be able to control my stress levels through, relaxation, whether it's deep breathing, whether it's, making sure my diet's on point and all those other things, and helping me be more complete person, be more upbeat, much better mood, because, Chewy said that, he made a video about kind of like we have a span. Our jiu-jitsu career has a span. We're not going to be able to be this young killer forever. There's going to be somebody younger and faster and stronger, and our body's a finite resource. So making sure that when we are on the mats, we give it our all, give it all the appropriate, effort, are mentally there, get the most out of each practice, whether you get your ass kicked or not. I think there's something to be said about taking your ass whippings and learning something from them and coming back. And so I really, as much as I hate having a bad day jiu-jitsu, I feel like it's a good thing, and I learn from it. So not letting those days affect my mood, because they can, they kind of bother me, and I can rehash those bad rolls or those, getting caught in these submissions or whatever. I think that's going to be something that I have to work on, because it's okay to get submitted. You're never going to get better if you don't put yourself in precarious situations. And so that's another thing I want to do is continue to put myself in situations in jiu-jitsu where I'm not comfortable, or I'm not the best, or I don't feel like I'm great at or better than my opponent in, and see what I can do and try to learn from my mistakes. And that's, continue to give as well this, in 2017. And the way I do that is hopefully I continue to help my teammates out, keeping them healthy and on the mats, continue to produce, high quality videos and content, education for people that train jiu-jitsu and just want to continue to improve their lives and continue to improve their well-being. And, I appreciate any and all feedback. If there's something I can do for any of you guys, please reach out, on my website or on my Facebook page, Jiu-Jitsu Therapist. Anything I can do to help, the jiu-jitsu community, to help people continue to train and be healthy and happy and enjoy jiu-jitsu and enjoy life, which is such a big part, of a lot of us in the jiu-jitsu community now. Like, I never thought, and I'm kind of skipping around, but I never thought I would do jiu-jitsu as long as I have. I thought maybe it's something I do just because of the curiosity of it, and then I would eventually stop doing jiu-jitsu. But now it's like there's no way I see myself stopping. It's like something I want to pass on to my kids. I feel like if I knew jiu-jitsu when I was younger, I would have had a much happier, growing up. I would have grew up a lot happier. I wouldn't have been as scared. I'm not, I still wouldn't have been one to want to get into confrontations or altercations with people. I'm still not that way, but I think I would have been more confident. I would have been more happy as a kid. So I think, I want to pass on jiu-jitsu to my kids and my son and, everybody that, because I know the benefits of it physically, mentally, and for everybody, young, old, man, woman, anybody can benefit from jiu-jitsu, and just keeping you guys on the mats and happy and healthy and giving back with, helping you maintain your health, I think is the most important thing. So, it's been an awesome year, ups and downs for sure. I love you guys, and I appreciate all the support for the website, all the support for the podcast, all the support for the videos. I'm always here to help. If there's anything I can do, please let me know. Happy New Year to all of you, and happy 2017.